so we'll get underway. Basically, what I want to do tonight is take you through some of the strategies that are running well, running hot, and just give you a little bit of an update on some of the drop boxes and what I've done in there as well. So what you'll notice, particularly on the 10K one, that's the only one I've done at the moment, is I've put in a little, within the folder, within the 10K portfolio systems folder, I've actually added in another little folder within that folder which has got the systems reviewed for week starting 21st of April. Has anybody noticed that already? Probably not, because it's way down the bottom, so I thought I'd do a quick run through it tonight. Basically what I'm doing is every week that we update systems, I'm going to put them in the new systems folder box, so that way you can go to the latest version of that system. And if you want to historically track how the system's been performing, you can just go back incrementally each week and see the updates, or go to the last update for that system. So it just cleans it up a little bit, because at the moment it's a little bit messy in there. Like once we get a few system updates in there, it gets a little bit messy, even though they're date stamped over here. It just makes it a bit easier to compartmentalize the different systems. So that's how I'm going to do it from now on. It'll just make it a lot easier for all of us. So you can just go in there and grab whatever's been updated. You'll see here I've done a few updates for this week. I'm going to run through some of those strategies as well, because there's some really good stuff coming through. So definitely make sure you go in and have a look or download some of those strategies, because it's just good to see what other traders are doing as well. Some of those systems are new, some are older, but just been tweaked a little bit. So I definitely would encourage you to go in. Like for example, Mabel sent me through one on the yen futures. It's absolutely flying. It's a really good strategy. She sent it through a while ago. It's been tracking nicely. We've got Bill's one there on SN 154. I've got an update there from Jay as well, which I'll add in for the short side. But the longs have been tracking beautifully. So there's some really good systems in there that you definitely want to have a look at and just kind of get a bit of a feel for. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to show you the portfolios I'm really kind of concentrating on at the moment. So I'm just going to bring that over, and then we're going to have a look at the charts and some of the systems I've loaded up. So let me just bring you up to date with our top 10. So this is our top 10. I've been tracking these strategies for a while now. The top 10 are the top 10 because they are systems that have been running well in real time. They've got a great average trade net profit. They're consistent. They're just generally very good. These are in Dropbox bins, so they'll be in the top 10. So once you get to that part of the module, you'll get access to all of that stuff. Once you get to the TradeStation component of the program, I'll shoot you through access to all of the drop boxes. But basically our top 10 will be in the 10K portfolio, and what you'll find is that I might actually set up this as a separate one, because our top 10 is going to probably change every couple of weeks, I would say, because what will happen is this top 10 of systems, you'll get systems coming in and out of that top 10. So let's go through some of these today. So basically we've got coffee on the long side, coffee on the short side. The reason why coffee is in there, because when I originally created the shorts, I didn't touch it for 3 or 4 months, and it was still making money. So when you get a strategy like that that's performing that well, you have to basically include it, because it's had no adjustment and it's just running beautifully. And then obviously we had Gary do the long side. That's just been an absolute top performing system, because it's just producing such great profit. Like if we have a look at the last even the last 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks have netted out over $8,000, $9,000. So, and that's trading in real time now, and it's just tracking beautifully. So that's definitely at the top of our list at the moment. So you've got some really big netting systems. Obviously they've got a slightly bigger drawdown, but that top 10. So sitting in number one, and what I'll do is I'll just squeeze this out a little bit. But you can see if you look down at the bottom here, this portfolio here of strategies, this top 10, has not had a losing week in the time it's been tracked. So that's over the last 14 weeks. That's pretty impressive. The other thing I've done here, and I'll just close that off so you can see it a bit clearer, is that I've ranked last week's ranking. I've given it last week's ranking, and obviously this week as well. Now you can see that the biggest moving strategy is this SN305 Russell. Now I've done 2 adjustments to our SN305. I've adjusted the longs and I've adjusted the shorts now as well. So basically the reason for that was that I wanted to pick up the short trades, more of the short trade, and I also wanted to not take as many long setups as I explained during our recent session. And what it allowed me to do is basically just modify that based on the volatility to pick more of the moves up and obviously reduce the number of trades I'm taking. So that has jumped up quite considerably, and I would definitely have this. This is one of your systems you're tracking. It's using a slightly different stop from the original. I've changed the stop strategy, but definitely worth investigating. Now, systems that aren't going well, one that I've got off is F4, the US bonds. I've turned that off basically because of the drawdown. It's done really well, but like any strategy, each one of these systems at one point in time is going to turn off. So your job is to get as much money out of the strategy as you can for the time it's on. So then the other one that I was a little bit, I'm a little bit up in the air on at the moment. It hasn't hit its max drawdown, but F10 is not really doing a lot at the moment. Now, the last 2 weeks have been pretty poor. We're going to have a look at the charts here. So I want you to, we're going to have a look at the Fortress F10 strategy. Long's only 144 tick. We're going to go and examine the daily chart. We're going to have a look at why that system's not running as well. And you'll see clearly that there's a little bit of an answer there. And obviously, we need to look at the short side on that strategy and what system can we sub in to trade the shorts. And obviously we're doing F4, which is our fib trader, and that's picking up, that's the balance between the longs and shorts. Now we've got heating oil, which hasn't had a good 2 weeks. We've got the Aussie dollar, which has been very consistent, only a small loser last week, so not too bad. SN154 has been flying. So that strategy there, SN154, and as I said, Jay's done a little bit of work to the short side that's even improved it more. It's returning, it's doing really well. It's sitting in 4th place, 6814. Great system, and 15-minute chart again. And I'm going to show you an interesting scenario here with our systems, particularly with the fib trader, although that's on the trend. A lot of the strategies are these time-based 15-minute charts, and they're running really well. So there's something to take home. So the Fib Trader 01 is a time-based chart. Coffee, as I said, it's produced 11,000, and then you've got SN200 sitting in 3rd place now at 8,400. Now the interesting thing, that's a pretty good. Who would agree that that's a pretty good portfolio? I mean, obviously, it's had a big week from 2 systems, but that's all we need. If you're trading the Fib Trader, you're taking a small risk and you're getting a big return on those strategies. And that's why you have that capital growth type system in your portfolio, because you want the small risk, bigger returns. So that's not a bad result over 14 weeks. And even though it hasn't been a super week last week, it's still very good. Now let's have a look. Those numbers are good, but have a look at portfolio number 2 that I'm tracking as well. Now this is what I'm calling the top 10 challenges. So the systems that will challenge that top 10, and the systems that in time will probably quickly replace those because of the sheer profit that they're netting out. So let's go through them. These are systems that are either fairly new and are being tracked live, not so new but turned back on, or we've just kind of created the strategy and we're tracking live. So basically, more to the point, they're more newer strategies. They're much newer, and they're being vetted for their performance. So even though some of them are new to the group, they were developed a while ago. Some of them were developed a while ago. Some have been developed fairly recently. So the yen futures was developed, I think, over a month or so ago, and in the time that I've had the actual strategy, like Mabel's given it to me, it's basically not missed a beat. So I think it's made over, let's have a look there, over $3,000, and it's tracking beautifully. Now, if you look at that strategy on the yen futures, great market, good momentum, good volatility, $7,000, almost $8,000. It really could slip in there in our top 3 systems, couldn't it? So the first cab off the rank would challenge that top 3. Now the second strategy here is the FDAX longs only. So remember that when we trade a strategy on a market, we have to have a balance between longs and shorts, even if we've only got a couple of days that we're trading, or we still need to have a balance. You don't want to be longs only on a strategy. You need to have a balance in there. It doesn't have to even be the same system, but as long as you're taking advantage of the days where there's selling days, or where there's where the longs aren't working, you need to have that balance. So the DAX longs there running beautifully at 11,493. So again, one of the top strategies. And even the shorts, that's just a great little combination there. 19,000 over 14 weeks, and that's from Mark, and that's tracking beautifully. Now, the fib trader, a lot of these strategies are actually fib trader strategies. So you've got a lot of the bigger performing, or the more profitable ones are the fib trader, except for that reversal. But if we look at some of these systems here, that's fib trader there, fib trader here. Can you see the pattern developing here, that a lot of the better performing systems are this fib trader? So it is tracking really, really well. And what I did was I thought, well, if we're getting this much volume and momentum on the fib trader for the longs and shorts, surely if the system is running well on long setups and short setups, what would be something that you would think, if you're getting good range or good movement on both sides of the market, what would be the ideal strategy to put in with coffee? If coffee's delivering that much profit, what would be the ideal strategy for you to be running as well with those two systems? You've got good range. We're getting a kind of an even distribution of longs and short profit. What strategy would we potentially look at to get us in a little bit earlier than potentially even the fib trader? Anybody? Fortress trend. Well, actually, it's the reversal. So we haven't really spent a lot of time. Some of the traders who probably aren't here tonight, but some of the guys who have been in with us for a while would have been familiar with the reversal. The reversal is a great one if you're getting markets that are switching, I guess, midway through the day, or over a certain number of days. You're getting that counter swing or a change in direction. That reversal picks up those moves beautifully, and you can see that it is running really well. So we've got the good volatility in coffee, and it's really. So I'm going to have a look at the reversal on some of these other markets that are doing well. The other market that is interesting is the fib trader. We've got the fib trader running on the Russell, which is doing really well. I've got SN305 on the trend, which I've modified. So I've made changes to that, loaded that up, and that's ready to go. Now, so putting those two together, you've got a very powerful combination. So it's just interesting to see that some of these systems are really starting to kind of complement each other really well. So that's what we're wanting to get. We're wanting to build that profit base up, and then starting to kind of put these systems together that are doing well. And you can see here that give us probably another week or couple of weeks here, and we can start really tapping into some of these strategies, because they are They are running very, very well, and they're obviously going to be substituting some of the systems we've got in our top 10. So definitely, what I'll do, as I mentioned before, is I will set up a top 10 systems, and I'll put those all in there, and I'll actually put up a top 10 challenges Dropbox, so you can access those, and that kind of replicates what we've got on the spreadsheet as well. But this challenger list is probably going to grow because I'm getting systems sent to me fairly regularly now, and they're really good. We load them up, we're running them for a month or two, and they seem to just be performing very well. So our traders are the upshot there is that our traders are getting very, very good at creating systems that are very robust when they go live. That's just great. So that's what we want to see. And as I mentioned before, there seems to be getting a very good kind of distribution of these systems, so it's great for everybody. Now, I just want to jump into the charts here for a second, and I want to show you this Eurobond. So one of the markets that we're tracking and we have been tracking is this Eurobond. It's been a little bit flattish over the last couple of weeks. It hasn't done much at all. In fact, if we go to the top 10, it is in our top 10, but you can see it's done nothing the last 2 weeks in a row. So I'm looking for it to improve a little bit this week, but we've got to be a little bit careful because the volatility has dropped right off. So the volatility in the ATR have dropped off. So what happens if our average true range drops off on our system that we're trading, that is a trending strategy, and we're looking for 30, 40, 50 points, and we're getting smaller ranges that are not quite twice as big as our initial stop? What's the issue there with that if we're trying to run a trending type strategy? Yeah, we're not getting that balance between reward to risk, are we? So we need to just keep an eye on that. I mean, obviously we're going to get a good. We're potentially going to need to focus here on the short side shortly. So we need to stay kind of on our toes in relation to the short setups. So I'm going to be sending out a strategy soon to really complement the shorts that is a little bit more dynamic than just the fib trader. So that fib trader, which is the fib 04, because I think that we can just leverage off these shorter setups a little bit better, particularly if we're going to get a bit of a gap down or we're going to get a bit of a sell-off, which looks like it potentially may happen on this Eurobond. So just keep an eye on it. I would say that if this market sells off, what's going to happen to the volatility and the ATR? What do you think is going to happen, particularly in those two indicators, those benchmarks that we've got? So we're going to get an increase in ATR, we're going to increase in volatility and good opportunities. So this is why it's important to stay on our toes. And if you are trading the long side and you're starting to see a drop off, it may be that you say, right, well, rather than continue to trade this for the next week or two, why don't I initiate the ATR or the average trade net profit scenario of the last 2 weeks or last 4 weeks? And if you find that your average trade net profit is dropping below 50, what can you do with this system? Even though it hasn't hit its circuit breaker, so you might be trading a strategy that is nowhere near its circuit breaker, because it might have, say, an $800 drawdown. You're only had a drawdown. You can bench it. If it starts to really struggle, then you can definitely sub it out for another system, and that makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense to. It's like, basically, I've heard it described when they talk about buying or buying options, because options obviously need to have that volatility to generate money, particularly if you're buying options. So when you potentially buy an option, and this is kind of getting a little bit off track, but if you've got an option and you're looking for it to increase in value, then you generally want to, you can, a lot of the time when you're doing that, you can substitute your current option if it's not increasing in value fast enough for an option that is increasing in value at a faster rate. Same applies for our systems. So if we're trading with a system that is really not performing as well as it should do, we can bench it. We can get something in that has, over the last, like we've got a multitude of systems here that we can look at, and that's why I did a little bit more work on SN305 this week, because I know there's a lot of money there to be taken, and we need to be vigilant with that strategy on longs and shorts to make sure we capitalize on this volatility. The same applies for looking at F10 and saying, right, well, you know, if F10 is going to start to struggle, what can we substitute it for? So we, you know, like it might be the yen futures, it might be the DAX, it might be something of a it might be the Nasdaq that we sub in, or it could be something that that can replace it fairly quickly. But what do we need to be careful of if we take out, say, F10 and we add another strategy, and so we're trading 4 or 5 other markets? What do we need to make sure we do as a general rule of thumb before we even put another system in? What's one of the first things we need to check? We need to have a look at the correlation, because it's no good putting in something that is immediately going to spike our risk. We definitely don't want to do that. And I was having a conversation with one of the traders today, and we were talking about, all right, well, it's all well and good to look at the inter-market relationships and what's happening with the markets. Are they selling off at the same time? Are they rallying at the same time? But the reality is that what determines our profit and loss? The profit and loss is determined by the results of our system, isn't it? So really we need to look at the system and say, all right, even if we have a relationship here between, say, bonds and T-notes, or the Russell and the Dow, are the two systems we're running on those two markets, have they got a strong correlation, and are we just doubling our risk? Because that's really what's going to drive our profit and loss. So we really need to focus in on the system outcome, and the best way to really improve our system correlation is to put them together and find where the deficiencies are, and then start looking for strategies to obviously get us up to that kind of neutral correlation, so we don't have that swing in negative, that negative drawdown occurring where we've got a high correlation. So traders, just having a look at this daily chart on the Eurobond, I would definitely be just keeping an eye on how tonight goes, and then I would probably be looking at tomorrow for the rest of the week, looking at potentially subbing out F10, because I think that at this stage we're going to probably want to focus a little bit more on something that has a better balance between longs and shorts, and something that's giving us a little bit more profit. It's not to say that we won't revisit it, but you can see clearly there that we've got a drop in volatility, and that's not going to bode well for a trending strategy. So let's have a look at some of these systems. Some of these strategies are running really well. Not a lot of trades on, and these are all fib trader. I wanted to highlight the fib traders tonight because we're going to focus in a little bit on those. Not a lot of trades taken here, but a good average trade net profit. But again, you need to turn your account over. It's no good having 11 trades in 6 months. You've got to get your account moving a lot faster than that. This is okay if you're adding a strategy that really this starts to balance something else out or fill a void, but the reality is that if you're going to be going onto the emerging managers platform, you need to be turning that account over, and you want to be doing it with a bit more frequency. So the fib trader is good, but it doesn't trade. It's not trading as frequently. Which system would we look at for more frequent trading? This is really, the fib trader is really more a swing trading strategy. However, could you use this intraday? Could you use the swing trader to be an intraday strategy? Absolutely. What settings would you use? Because I've got pretty much every one of these systems, and this one's Chris's. This is a really good strategy from Chris on gold. Which one of these systems, which one of these settings would need, what would the settings need to be on this fib trader to give us a higher turnover on trades and get us that high frequency trading? Let's go tick, time, and range. So we'd always need smaller or shorter time frames, wouldn't we? Because we need to pick up, and what's one of the things we need, if we bring up a 5-minute chart or a 3-minute chart or a 55 tick chart, what do we still need to see? What do we need to see? We need to see volume, we need to see volatility. So if we look at markets like, now this is on a 15-minute chart, you're seeing that it's picking up some really nice trade opportunities there. You've done a really good job on this one, Chris. This is really good. It's held its form as well. Have a look at this one on the DAX. This is very nice as well. Not taking a lot of trades, but this is an 800 tick. Now that's definitely a very high tick setting. So if we want to take advantage of those bigger moves, we can still get those, but we need to see the volatility and we need to lower our tick setting, don't we? So it's just a balance, and you're going to get better at that when you start playing with a strategy. So the more you spend time playing with a strategy in the market that you're trading, the better you're going to be at massaging the results and getting the results that you're after. So you don't necessarily think that this fib trader is definitely a swing trading strategy. It can be done intraday. It just means that you need to, what's the first thing you need to do when you look at your system? And we mentioned this in our, and I'll just go into here. If we're going to start looking at the strategy, one of the things we need to do, and I've just loaded up our fib trader material into our new course here. One of the things that we need to do is we need to set our objectives, don't we? Before we even start looking at the buy setup, sell setup, going through the material, we need to work out what our objective is for this strategy. So whether it's the trend, the momentum, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to be trading a system, the first thing you want to do is set your objectives. So you're not. What does that help you do if you set the objectives of your strategy? It helps you focus, exactly. So that's what we need to do. We need to say, right, well, rather than chasing every rabbit, let's just concentrate on making sure we're just going after one rabbit. Stick to a plan. Make sure the plan fits in with your portfolio. So whatever it is that your goal is in the portfolio or your goal is for your trading, make sure that resonates with the strategy that you're going through and testing. You might spend a lot of time on this fib trader and you go, well, look, the reality is that it's great, but I'm really not at the point at the moment where I want to take overnight trades, or I want to take larger trades with a bigger risk, or I want to take trades that I really want to just have a momentum type strategy or a trending system, small risk, high reward. But I mean, the advantage with this is that you can, as long as you know how to look at the chart and how to set the right chart up for your objectives, you can still get that with this strategy, because you can pull in a system that has like a lower risk, high reward, and is trading more frequently. It's just not going to turn your account over as much, is it? Because it takes a lot more time to set up that fib retracement rather than, say, a momentum type strategy. So that's the DAX. Another good one here is this Euro Yen. I'm not really a massive fan of point and figure. So, like, I'm not a huge fan of Renko. I would definitely kind of stay a little bit away from anything to do with range and Renko until you've got a very, very good base on tick and time based charts. Once you've got those working really well and you're comfortable and you you've been trading for a while, then I would explore the options of Renko based charts. But the reality is that it's kind of the road less traveled, because you're just not getting the accuracy that you need. And particularly if you're someone who has to know exactly how the trade's set up, wants to get as close to those tested results as possible, the Renko strategies will drive you crazy, because you're not going to get 100% of the best you'll get is probably 70 to 80%, if that. So you can create some fantastic systems with the Renko, but the reality is that they're just not as accurate. So I would definitely, for the purpose of our group, stay with, there's plenty of strategies here to stay with without having to explore Renko at this stage. So guys, that's what I wanted to recap tonight. As I said before, I'll set up the top 10 in Dropbox. I'll set up a new Dropbox folder of our top 10. There still will be the 10K portfolio, so they're really the systems that are running well and have a low drawdown, which is what we want. But in Dropbox, I'll set up that top 10, and then I'll set up the challenges portfolio. I'll send everyone a link to that, and then any system that you see that is either Fib or Fortress, it'll obviously be in its own portfolio as well. So they usually get saved in two places. So one is under their system, and the second one is where it obviously features. So I'll just be uploading those tomorrow. Some of them are already in the 10K portfolio. You'll notice there are already some in there. SN305, SN154, the pullback strategy on the bonds, which is absolutely flying along as well. So I'll do a few more updates tomorrow. There'll be some videos uploaded to the members area. Last week's training videos uploaded. I've also got a couple of member review videos that I'm posting tomorrow, so definitely jump in and have a look at those. And that's probably about it for now. There won't be a session on Thursday, but I'll be sending a fair bit of information out today and tomorrow, or tomorrow and Thursday, just to give you some more updates on some of the strategies and keep you in the loop as far as what's performing really well. So guys, thank you for your time tonight. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and if you have questions, feel free to shoot them through. Otherwise, have a great week, and no doubt I'll be chatting to most of you, or some of you, during the week anyway. So all the best. Any questions before I wrap it up? All good. One thing that I did get a question on, which is that some of you are going through the modules, which is fantastic, but got stuck at the visualization one. I've actually taken that out of as a prerequisite, so you can just go through the modules as you have been doing. You won't get stopped, obviously, here at the 30-day visualization. That's not a prerequisite anymore. But you'll notice that I'll be uploading more and more training content in the actual members area, and I'll be going through and doing like detailed training modules on each of the systems, like I've done with this Fib Trader. I'll be releasing that tomorrow or the next day, and just a lot more content and detail. And the member reviews as well, the weekly member reviews, I'm actually going to be I've just set those up so they basically, and I'll just go into the items, they'll be categorized under their system. So if you're looking for trend, and I'll add in some Fib Trader ones and some cycle. So if you want to kind of have a look at one of the reviews, they'll be listed under their specific system. So guys, thanks for your time, and they'll be dated as well. And we'll catch you obviously on our next update. Cheers.